And since the Attorney General is here, we had some questions for the Attorney General section from the Judicial Branch or Attorney General. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. But do we have anyone who has any questions?
I remember, Mr. Chairman, he was half done and went first.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I did, but I feel kind of.
But she's not in here.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Oh, she's back there. Okay. Ms. Hammonds.
It's too many laws. That's right. You need a question?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yes. We're going over the budget this morning for the Attorney General's office, and there are some questions.
All right.
So I'd like you to answer.
I am here.
Okay. Mr. Hoskins.
I think Councilor Jordan and I have similar questions. It has to do with what was formerly known as Constitutional Defense Fund. I think it's called Advocacy Initiative now, something to that effect. What I wanted some more details on was, to what extent does taking the litigation in-house, is that reflected in any reduction in that budget from the previous fiscal year?
And I don't remember when the budget was prepared in relation to when we got the decision out of the circuit court. I will tell you overall that and I think the treasurer told you, I was sworn in Monday in the District of Columbia. Although we had a major win in the District of Columbia, the case still is alive there. It's alive against the officials. We have approached opposing counsel about agreeing to a change of venue to the Northern District of Oklahoma. We will be primary, and we will use local counsel as secondary, regardless of whether or not they agree to that. Certainly it's our intent to continue to reduce fees, and we have seen some reduction in the past few months, the past 3 months, and do as much as we can in-house.
If the budget submission was made before the district court's decision, don't we have reason to reduce it even further? Don't we now anticipate taking more of it in-house?
For litigation, we certainly do. I mean, we still, and this fund doesn't reflect any of the work really that we do on the tribal court case. It's only the federal court case. So we know that we're going to have the District of Columbia case unless they agree to transfer it to the Northern District. This case is not, it's not over. No one wishes it were over more than me, but it's not. And we are probably going to have to take it through closure in a federal setting, I would anticipate. Part of this money is not just for litigation, but for lobbying efforts and congressional advocacy. And I think maybe the Secretary of State or someone else could address that more than me. Those are annual amounts or monthly amounts that are set. That contract is.
But I mean, if you were submitting your budget today, given what's going on now, I mean, would you not reduce it further in terms of litigation expenses, given what we know now, given the outcome of the district court decision?
May I speak to my budget analyst and ask her? When did we prepare it? Were we anticipating a reduction in the warrant fees when we prepared it? Okay. So I think that we were anticipating some reduction. Even when we prepared it in May, we reduced it, they tell me, by about $600,000.
In May?
Yes, we prepared the budget in May, and we based our estimate on a reduction in using outside counsel. Now, even if and most of these fees are to the Oric law firm. which was, we've talked about this before, a very expensive international firm, and they have done a very good job for us. We are not, it's not our plan to cut them off completely, but to assume a primary role in that litigation and just have them consulting with us for a small monthly fee. We will have to continue to use outside counsel if the case moves here, but it will be to a far less extent. So I don't have the capacity to do the entire case in-house. I do have the capacity to do a lot of it, and I have the capacity to certainly reduce fees, and that's what we're going to do, local counsel. So, you know, I truly don't mean to be hedging. I think that we did try to take that into account when we submitted the budget, that the fees would be going down. Is it accurate? Is it going to go down any more? I don't know. I just don't. This was, you know, we try to, in our projections, account for all contingencies, and that's what we've done.
And if I could just add, I guess I'd like to see somewhat of the breakdown at some point. I mean, we've got litigation mixed in with lobbying expenses, and I know you can't speak as well for lobbying expenses, but when they're mixed together, it becomes difficult to see how far we're reducing our reliance on outside counsel and how much of that is going to lobbyists. And so I think we're kind of get to the point where we need some more specificity. I don't doubt that's forthcoming. I know it can't be listed here on the line items, but that's my concern, is that we get a little more specificity in this budget.
And I think we can give those to you. We've got some of those numbers here.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight, do you have something to add?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the government relations, PR categories of expense in this contract line item, we've got $2.5 million total in that contract line item. Two of those contracts, the base amount of those represents $480,000 of that, and then there are expenses in addition to that. The expenses in our experience have been very, very low, so I would not estimate any more than $500,000 of that 2.5 being for the government relations side of things. So.
It just raises a follow-up. So 2.5 million is the line item. A little less than $500,000 is specified for lobbying efforts, which leaves $2 million for litigation. And I guess to the Attorney General, I'd ask, is $2 million in litigation in this budget a reduction from what we spent on litigation last time? Because again, when you put the two together, it becomes a little difficult to parse it out. I guess I just want to see that we're reducing what we're spending on litigation, because that was the path that I think was described to us months ago, and I just want to make sure we're on that path.
As of for fiscal year 2008 up through July, so we don't have August and September up on there, it was 1.9 million. So for 10 months in fiscal year 2008, it was 1.9, 1,904,000.
And it sounds to me like we're staying level on what we're budgeting for litigation from the last year. 1.9, to less than the last fiscal year, and about 2 million for the next fiscal year. So I guess I have a concern about if we really are moving away from spending what we spent last year on outside counsel. If it's something we have to, if it's a burden we have to bear, I suppose we have to bear it. But my understanding was we were going to move towards reducing that. I know you're trying, but the budget numbers just don't seem to show that to me.
Well, I understand your concern. I mean, and we have been trying to, since our last discussion with council, trying to take those down. Our biggest month in January of this fiscal year was in January of 2008, and the total bill for that month, and that was a very busy month, was $529,000 itself. Since then, it's been 237, 189, 173, 156, 105, 113. And as I said, we haven't got August or, of course, September yet, and I anticipate them to continue that trend downward. And as of right now, it should go to a flat fee. They are shipping us all of their research that they were doing for the anticipated next step for us to achieve or take over the primary role.
I really am done.
Okay. Ms. Jordan?
And if we see this downward trend, we're down around maybe 100,000 a month, which puts us at about 1.2 million. That would be outside source because and it shouldn't even be that high because you'll be doing the bulk of it here yourself. And I know you and your office are very capable of that, and in fact, that I push for that.
Yes, you
for it
do.
to come back in-house and for our Attorney General's office to take it over. I would ask you to consider if we left $1.5 million in this budget, reducing it by $1 million. That's in keeping with the discussion we've previously had with the chief on this topic. And then if you see a need later on in the year, we do a budget mod to bring it back up. But we send a clear message to these outside sources, this pot is getting smaller, it's not getting bigger. And you're going to be asked to do more for the dollar you're getting. And I understand that you're getting ready to work with a local Oklahoma firm, which I know their fees are going to be much more reasonable than the Washington firm. I truly would ask you from my heart, could we bring this down and show the people that we're making every effort to show slow up the dollars going out to the attorneys. And I'm an attorney myself, but folks, those dollars are dollars that are not going to be spent on services. And I just really believe in my heart that we can get by here with 1.5 million. And if we can, I know Diane will come back to us. We do those budget mods every month, and we can kind of keep a handle on this particular line item. Diane, could we consider that?
That seems reasonable to me. That would be, so we reduce at this time the litigation for FY09 from 2 million to 1.5 and leave that $500,000 for the, I call it lobbying, and that's not what we call it. Melanie, what's the right term? Government relations piece. Is that right?
I was thinking a total of 1.5 total in that line item. Will that get us where we're...
That cuts the litigation
That still
approximately in
gives you
half.
$1 million. Yeah, it still gives you $1 million. And you and I both know you're not going to have any trouble if you come back and you show us the numbers and show, hey, we've done all we can in-house. This is what we've had to go outside. And I really feel like those fees of the firm you're going to use is going to be much more reasonable knowing that firm.
And if we get the case transferred to the Northern District, if we don't have to fly out there and go back and forth, that will further reduce fees.
The additional thing is we will explore the errors and omissions possibility, and that may bring it down more because generally they will let you many times employ the attorney of your choice, so we could possibly put that in with the firm that you're going to utilize outside.
I know that we're trying to do that. Our deductible is $100,000 or $400,000.
I'm sorry. Your deductible for what? Give me four.
On the errors and omissions policy.
It's 100,000.
That's what
We
I
have a deductible of 100,000 on errors and omissions.
Well, because we're such a large entity, it's actually called a self-insured retention, and it applies to all of our liability policies. And what that does is it keeps our premiums down very, very low, and it gives us an incentive to keep our claims down. So that's why we have such a high number there.
I would ask for you to meet us halfway and consider that. Let us do that. Let us take this $1 million, use it for the necessary services that we've discussed over the last 2 days. But when you come back and all of us will have this in mind, there's gonna be carryover, and she will come back with the hard numbers. We'll have probably maybe a 6-8 month track record here, and we can see what they were able to do inside versus what still had to go out to what hopefully will be an Oklahoma group of attorneys with a more reasonable top-end hourly rate. And I will put that in the form of a motion.
I would second that.
If I'm not getting any real dissent there.
You do not.
Okay. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
And actually, it's to reduce, if I could.
Yes.
It's to reduce the line item to 1.5 million.
1.5, is that a livable total?
We're not talking about the earmark for litigation versus advocacy. We're talking
Yeah, I'm
about the
assuming-
advocacy initiative.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming you'll come back with figures on what those things are on down the road when we get a handle on them.
Okay, I just want to be clear. You're suggesting that this budget, which is now proposed at approximately 2.5 million, be reduced by approximately $1 million to 1.5.
With the idea that if it doesn't materialize like I truly believe it will, that there is going to be a reduction, she would be able to come back, and with our carryover, we would be able to fund what remains for the next year.
Well, and that, the only thing I would caution is that assumes a lot here, that, you know, we will have some carryover and that we won't have other priorities that we're going to want to put it towards, and so it's a bit of a risk here, because with $2 million in '08 on legal fees, you're basically taking it down to less than half.
You know what I find though, is when you tell the attorneys this is what you got to work with, like a miracle, that's what they can work with.
And none of that, I agree with what Councilor Jordan just said, but I also, I understand there's inherent risk, but I question how much the risk is. We've just heard about a strategy that's going to reduce legal fees. We're aware of the errors and omissions policy that would help cover it. And not only that, obviously, if they come back, the administration comes back and says, you know, we've got to fight on this legal front, we need these fees, and the council's proven before they're willing to step up. I would just urge us not to be too frightful of risks involved in reducing this by $1 million. Thank you.
Mr. Baker, did you have something?
Yeah, I did. And you know, we've also raised the Attorney General by several employees that are going to, you know, help with this. And that went from 4 to 6, 600,000. So, and I don't think anybody here is going to sit there and say, you get toward the end of the year and you need, you know, additional funds. I don't think you'll run into any real problems.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded that we reduce the advocacy initiative from $2,578,000 to $1,500,000. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
And I want to tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you're willing to work harder to make this happen.
Thank you.
So that these monies possibly can go to some of the services that are so needed by our people.
Absolutely, I agree.
Are there any other questions of the Attorney General? Congratulations on being sworn in D.C.
Thank you. I was, it was interesting. My number was OK 0004. So apparently there are 3 other Oklahoma attorneys who are members of the District of Columbia Law.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question about a comment that's going to go back to health. I just didn't know if this was a good time to...
Okay. Oh, is it a...
It's money.
Okay, because we'd already finished with that.
I know.
Okay, what?
Well, it goes to Callie. Was there a statement made, something about motor fuels tax and carryover money into health?
Yes.
Because if there was, I don't think we voted on that.
Yeah, that is, I had a list of proposed changes in my presentation yesterday, and I would need a motion from a council member to add those into this budget.
Yeah, and I did have those down, which I was going to
I'm sorry.
wait for later, but I will entertain the motion for her proposed changes.
I move we accept all of our proposed changes.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the proposed changes?
Clarification again?
It's the proposed changes that was presented in Callie's presentation yesterday, and then it was a sheet that was not on the PowerPoint that she passed out later.
Page 4.
No, that isn't it. It's the changes. Those are the initiatives, I believe, but it's changes. It's revenues.
Mr. Chairman, I'd only advise the council that keep in mind, you have a significant amount of unfunded initiatives that you've passed over the last day and a half. And the only additional revenues that have been put onto this budget to accommodate any of those is the $2 million of motor fuels. So, you know, that, as long as the 1.3 million unappropriated, there's 3.3 in total, but 2.4 just got allocated to scholarships. So I'd only advise that before you consider taking the entire extra revenues that has been put on the table for what was requested of it, that what's been requested from this body be funded as well.
Did we not just reduce the budget by $1 million?
Yes.
That could be, okay. I'd make a motion we table this until the end of the budget hearing.
Second. So the motion's been made and seconded that we table this until the end of the budget hearings. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. And that's tabled. Okay. Mr. Evans, we are ready for financial resources, but I would ask that you go to tab 5, Community Services, since they've been waiting for some time, in case we have any questions of people from Community Services. And we appreciate their waiting and their patience.
Tab
9.
Tab 9. Community Services?
Yes.
Community Services is budgeting a slight decrease compared to the 08 budget of approximately $3 million, and that's largely attributable to the environmental health project funding. Its carryover is a little light right now. Obviously, these budgets are prepared. Those are project related. They have significant amount of costs associated with them that can come in at various times throughout the year. Those environmental health projects, I would fully anticipate having a significant amount of carryover coming onto the table once that actual dollar amount's identifiable. That would explain the slight decrease in this chart. Now, obviously, what sticks out in the charts, the more is unexpended than is even expended, and obviously that's the roads. Okay. One thing I would point out that in 2008, the engineering and sanitation, the 38 million, $4.5 million of that is projected in engineering and sanitation. In 2007, the 35 million unexpended, 4 million of that's in engineering and sanitation, and 5 million in 06. So obviously a lot of these things that are heavy project related, water lines and septic systems, are stretching beyond fiscal years, and the funding is associated with it still carrying over into the next year as well. As far as the funding, you can see that the roads funding from the Department of Interior skewing all these charts. Slight decrease in IHS environmental. That's where I would anticipate the carryover coming in would equal out a little closer to the level of 08 as what it is presently. far as the personnel-related cost of community services, you can see their salary and benefits. They have $159,000 in new, there's about 3 positions in that new staffing package. There's 24 positions in the vacant. And as you can see, their actual staffing level has increased in the last couple of years. And here's the actual head counts. You can see the 24 vacant positions. 10 of those are in the roads department. 8 of them are in the engineering and sanitation, 3 in community development, and 3 in executive director. So the lion's share of those vacant positions are in the direct service areas of the division, with heavy into the roads and some of those hard-to-fill positions. Going into the analysis of the departments, the community service administration is a flat budget, -3%. Tribal funded community works and building project budgets requesting an increase of $428,000 or 86%. This is having somewhat of a diluted effect due to reductions in the community planning grant and the spending down of a few of the 07 IHP budgets without replacing those out of the 08 IHP. Significant increase, 117% or $1.7 million compared to 07 actuals in the administrative budget. It's due to increases in the IHP funding in the 09 budget from the 07 IHP that was not spent in 07. Also contributing to the increase are a few new initiatives being requested from the Gen Fund, named Comprehensive Community Profiles, $50,000 that was mentioned yesterday by Ms. Ketcher, and another Tribal Database initiative for $60,000. The Community Development Department has a flat budget, 2% increase compared to 07. $6.1 million, 214% increase over 07 actuals. The variances to the prior year budget include some HUD increases due to IHP activity for building packages. We're now budgeting $1.5 million from the 05 IHP, $1.6 million from the 06 IHP, $1.6 million from the 07 IHP, and $1 million from the 08 IHP, for a total of $5.7 million in those building packages that's going back now for 4 different IHP plan years. The same budgets in 08 funded from the 05, 6, and 7 total 5.2, and unfortunately these budgets are projecting total expenditures of only $60,000 in 08. 07 there was no different with total building package budgets from 05 and 06 totaling $3.5 million, and actually expended a total of $300,000, or less than 10%. Obviously the program has obstacles hindering its ability to deliver the services without reevaluating the housing plan activity, as commented in here, concerned what message we may be sending to HUD. Because we do, as you know, have an annual performance review and a report back to HUD on each year's IHP, and this particular area has consistently not been able to expend its dollars. Engineering and sanitation facilities is budgeting a $4.2 million decrease, or 39%, compared to the current budget. It's due to the omission of the individual water and sanitation program funding of $500,000 for the water wells and septic, as well as decreases in the self-help community water lines of another $1.2 million. The IHS environmental health project funding also decreased by $2.5 million, as I mentioned earlier. However, no carryovers included in the budget, yet the projects are projecting to carry over in excess of 2 at the end of the year, as they typically do. Had this anticipated carryover been included in the budget, the variance would be limited to the 2 tribal funded programs, the water and sanitation and self-help. Engineering and sanitation facility has a $1.1 million increase over 07, and it's in the projects they're anticipated. The housing department in community services is budgeting significant decreases in both compared to last year's budget and 07 actuals. $1.3 million decrease in its budget, and the decrease is representative of the 04 new construction / community service funding being spent down in 08 and is not being replaced in the 09 budget. It's the new construction component. The roads department, we can only really compare to 08 budget, and it's a 5% increase, or $2 million. Need to make one comment to the council. I just was able to assess and confirm through the director of the roads department the tribal bridge program, which is in here under the roads department. okay, on page 5. It's the first budget identified on page 5. As you'll see, it has $373,000 in it. That particular budget, as it was submitted, has carryover revenue of $373,000. That $373,000 needs to be backed down by $225,000 for the current year allocation of bridge and access funds, the $15,000 per council. Now, what that will do will require $225,000 of gen fund dollars.
Ms. Cantor.
I guess I'm a little confused here when you say the $15,000 per council member. Yes, this budget was funded with carryover because in looking at the '08 budget, it looked like it was not going to be expended. The motor fuel tax bridge program allocation is below.
That's the same program.
So you're saying there's a recurring every year the council
Probably bridge
appropriates?
program, yes, for $15,000 per council. It's a bridge/access, special access fund. It's totally different than the motor fuel tax roads
Okay, I missed that one.
and the motor vehicle tax roads.
So you're saying the carryover and new revenue of $225?
Yes. The carryover is approximately $150 that should be carrying out of this year into '09, but the $225 for the '09 allocation of $15,000 per counselor is being representative as carryover revenue that we know is not going to exist. So in essence, the $15,000 allocation is not going to be available.
Okay, I guess I'm a little confused, and maybe I fell asleep here. We've got motor fuels tax that we use for highways and bridges. We have motor vehicle tax that we specifically allocate, and we have earmarked tribal funds in addition to that.
Yes, for a bridge/special access program. Tin Horns Bridge, helping county commissioners with bridges.
Mr. Hoskins.
Well, I would make the motion, and I want to make sure I get the numbers right, that we allocate sufficient funds to meet that $15,000 per district allocation, or per council seat allocation. And I think you mentioned what that number would be, but
It'd be $225,000.
that would be.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded that we have $15,000 per 15 counselors within the 14 county area, for $225,000 for the bridge program. Is there any discussion? Yes.
And in addition to the 373?
No, it would actually, the 373 is a carryover revenue that's funding 373 of expense. About 150 is what's being projected to be actual carryover, and 225, the current year portion of the 15 times 15,000, should not be in carryover revenue. It should fall out the bottom and have to be funded.
Line item here then?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the total budget. That line item is the total budget. But that 373 cannot totally be funded by the carryover. The current year allocation has to come out of current year revenues, or the 15 won't get added to every, all the accounts.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Jordan.
Doug, I just want to make sure now our other roads money is in there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And law enforcement. All motor vehicle tax apportionments and motor fuel tax roads are in there, as well as the road admin 10%. Where are we at? Okay, moving right on.
Are there any, Dr. Cox?
About, under housing, what are the 3 different line items for community service youth development? Very bottom of page 4.
Oh, they're coming out of 3 different Indian housing plans. If you look at the 5th digit, the 06, let's see, 35606,
Right.
that's the 06 IHP, and then the 07 below it, and the 08 IHP below that.
Got it.
It's a pretty neat naming convention that the county uses, so we can all keep track of what housing plan these county units are coming out of.
Thank you.
Are Any other questions on community services? Ms. Fisher?
What did we decide to do with individual water and sewer? It's not funded. That's what you just tabled.
Who's on that proposed?
Was, Doug, do you?
We didn't put 500,000 back in it.
It was one of the components of Cali's recommended utilization of the unappropriated reserve.
It was part of,
That's what it is. The one that we tabled, right?
yes. Ms. Jordan, do you have?
Well, that was my concern, because even if we hadn't tabled those, we only had 200,000 in that, but in the prior year, and this is one of your most popular rural programs, we had 500,000 down there. And I think Kelly has something to say to that.
The request is for 500,000, the same as 08. The other request on the proposed changes is to increase the self-help water lines back up to $1 million.
Okay, self-help is coming back to $1 million?
Yes, the proposal on my list of changes is put 500,000 in individual water and sewer and add 200,000 to self-help community water lines.
Can I make a motion?
Ms. Fisher?
I want to put $200,000 back in the self-help water lines. I guess I make a motion.
Well, no, that's part of what was already tabled.
So we can't bring none of that back up.
I think you're going to bring it back up at the end as we're balancing the budget. It won't be forgotten.
Community service question. Kelly,
Yes.
can you tell me a little bit about Project A that was allocated $20,000 out of Muskogee County?
Actually, I think Melanie might be able to address that better. It was just brought to my attention. It is a community organization in Muskogee that applied through our Community Works program, and they were awarded a grant. I think the total was around $27,000, and they are tribal members. The board of the organization is tribal members.
Thank you.
Ms. Jordan?
Okay, this is not the department then where our youth grants come from?
Yes.
It is? Where is it at?
It's under community development.
Page 3,
Page 3?
Yes,
Community development?
Community Youth Grant Program.
yes.
Okay, that again is one of our most popular programs. That is the one that comes through Cherokee First, where the kids can do the volunteer hours and then receive either $150 or $300 for their efforts to use on one of their main activities during the school year. And they actually, if they get $300, they put in 30 hours, I believe, of volunteer time, so they're actually doing the work. It ran out of money, I think, like twice last year. It is a most popular program. And we had it budgeted for $300,000, and we're going to knock it down to $157,500. Folks, this is a good program that every county, to my knowledge, is drawing on. And it is we're not giving them the money. They're doing volunteer hours out in their community organizations in order to get this money. And I would ask you to consider bumping that up, put it back, let's put it to $300,000 so we can assure those people in Cherokee First that they're going to have money, because this particular program is gaining momentum because we have really advertised it out in the communities.
Are you making a motion?
I make a motion that we put the necessary funds in there to bring that budget level for '09 up to 300,000.
Motion's been made and seconded that we increase community youth grant program by $142,500 to bring it to $300,000. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried.
Chairman,
Mr. Busser.
is there someone here who can talk about community garden? I know it's a good program, it's not a lot of money, but did you do anything with it in 08? I guess my question. I remember that they were going to buy a tractor, and I'm not so sure where the tractor is.
My house money.
I think Charlie and Mr. Soap can come up and address that.
Thought I was going to get out of this whole thing, and actually I was given an assignment, put y'all in a good mood when I came out, so I hope I can be successful in doing that. I guess they are, they're laughing.
Yeah.
The community garden has really grown, it's getting popular because I think the increase in food price going up and all that, and so several of the rural communities have asked that we fund those through Community Works, and I think Delaware County has a few of them, and Cherokee County has requested some. I think at least there's about 9 of them that's really looking into doing community gardens, and but I think we have, I know we have 1 tractor plow, but I'm sure we have 2 tractors, Harley, and I think we're talking about maybe purchasing another one. But the thing that they want to do is also is to go into a little bit further planning, and because of healthy food, diabetes, and all that, so that's something they're really looking at. I hope and I'm sure some of the communities will be able to do it, but as you know, most of you know, raising a garden is a lot of work, and but that you can ask for better food to eat when you get it from fresh vegetables or food from the garden. So, but that is picking up momentum in other communities hardly as far as that goes, and with the community gardens.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Ms. Jordan.
Charlie, am I reading the budget right that we don't have anything budgeted for self-help community buildings or for a compassion grant fund?
The community buildings,
The self-help community buildings was rolled in with the Community Works. It's the first line, yeah, it's the first AU under the Executive Director, Community Work and Building Projects. Since those are administered by the same group, we felt that those could be rolled together, and that's why you see this large increase from the 08 budget amount of $500,000 up to $928. If you look a little bit further down in the budget, you will see where the separate budget for community self-help community buildings was taken to zero. Those budgets were added together.
And what about our compassion capital fund?
That is also in here. It's CAUTA.
So they have been funded?
Yes.
And are they funded at a level equal to last year or hopefully better?
It is right around last year's. Looks like a very small decrease of about $4,000, which should be more than sufficient. In 08, on Doug's projection, he has them spending about $735,000. That could go up a little bit, but it looks like they've got plenty of
So they
room.
should have sufficient funding?
Yes.
Again, real popular programs out in the community.
Yes.
So it's about the only way that communities are getting community centers.
Yes, and those really help the communities get organized.
Next question.
I had a question about the CSBG. I had talked to 3 counselors about it, and they wasn't really aware of it. And that's, Callie was going to make a call to somebody.
Yeah, I got some information on that. That's a block grant And this is the one that I had emailed Nancy Scott, administers it, and those funds are still being appropriated or requested in '09. It's funded with a grant. They do several different things with it. One of them, they call it Camp Millionaire, and it's a financial literacy program where they work with the schools.
It's a heck of a program. Is she here?
No.
I can put that into it.
Well, I was just gonna tell them about it, because we put it on in Adair County.
Yeah.
And I wish they had them, several of them everywhere, but I wanna get mine up.
You will if you talk about it. No, just kidding.
Did you know that? But I just wanted to make sure they was doing something.
Where has the emergency home repairs and the self-help emergency and all of that gone to?
Should be under housing, I believe, when we get over to that group.
Not under this house.
Pardon me?
Well, page 4.
Well, yes, there is some self-help on here. Page 4, where there's a self-help emergency assistance program, $400,000.
Okay, but the lead-based paint and the rehab, all of that.
Rehab is under housing now. When we brought over the activities that were formerly administered by Housing Authority, we created a new group. It's tab 20 in your book, and that includes all of the housing activities and the rehab that was formerly shown in a different group. So if you go over to tab 20, you'll see a lot of those housing activities there.
Are there any other questions? Mrs. Fitchcomb?
Point me in here where rehab is, so I can make sure all the funds is in there, because as Charlie knows, we use that a lot in Adair County.
Tab
I think that's in housing. We haven't got to that
Okay,
group yet.
okay.
Mr. Thorne?
I'm going to have to leave. I've got a meeting I need to go to. But under management resources, I have something that I want to try to put back in the budget. And I don't know if y'all will get to that today or we'll have to recess. I'd like to make a motion to recess. Second.
Okay. Well, motion's been made and seconded that we recess. Or are we through with community services? Because I don't want to have to ask them to come back tomorrow. So are we finished with community services? Okay. Okay. All in favor of recessing until 9 tomorrow morning? You probably just saying aye. Any opposed?
I am, Chairman, I was going to ask to let it be later in the morning.
It's been posted. But
Not only me, there were several others who wanted to change it to 10. We had